In this video, we're going to talk about how to calculate the volume and the surface area of a triangular prism. But first, let's draw a picture. My picture is not perfect, but you can see what I'm trying to draw. And let's draw a rectangular prism. Now, if you recall, maybe from a previous video, that the volume of a rectangular prism is the length times the width times the height. Now, look at the triangular prism. Notice that it's half of a rectangular prism. Let me draw it inside the rectangular prism in blue. As you can see, it's about half of the volume of the rectangular prism. So it turns out that the volume of a triangular prism is 1/2 length times width times height. But we're going to use different symbols to represent it. I just want you to compare the two so you can easily calculate the volume of a triangular prism. Now, throughout this video, we're going to use this as the base of the triangle, and this is going to be the height of the triangle. Now, sometimes you can call this the height of the prism itself, but I don't want to confuse this h with this one. So I'm just going to call it the length of the prism, just to distinguish it. Perhaps you've been taught in class that to find the volume of any prism, it's the area of the base times the height. The base of the triangular prism is basically a triangle, and the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So the area of the base, which is the area of the triangle, is 1/2 base times height. Now, this h, this is the height of the prism, which we defined it to be L. So this h in blue is not the height of the triangle. It's the height of the prism, which I'm going to call it the length of the prism. So notice that this formula is very similar to this one. It's 1/2 times the 3 dimensions. So that's how you could find the volume of a triangular prism. Now let's talk about how to find the surface area of a rectangular prism. So I'm going to draw the same picture, and we're going to use the same dimensions. So once again, we're going to define this to be the length of the prism. This is the height of the triangle, and the base of the triangular base. Now, in order to find the surface area of a prism, it's going to be the area of the base plus the lateral area of the prism. Now, the area of the base is basically a triangle. So the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So capital B represents the area of the base. Lowercase b is simply the length of one side of the triangle, the base of the triangle. So just make sure you distinguish capital B from lowercase b. So this is just the area of one triangle, but we have the triangle in front and we have the triangle in the back. So there's two of them. Therefore, we need to multiply this quantity by 2. To find the lateral area, it's basically the perimeter of the prism times the height. And remember, you need to distinguish the height of the triangle from the height of the prism. The height of the prism, we defined it in this video to be L, not H, not the height of the triangle. So that's the lateral area. It's the perimeter of the base multiplied by the height or the length of the prism. The perimeter is basically, the perimeter of the base is the perimeter of the triangle. So it's that length in blue. Let's call the hypotenuse of the triangle C. So the perimeter is going to be H plus B plus C. So therefore, here's your simplified equation that you need. The surface area is going to be the base times the height. 2 times 1/2 is basically 1, so you can cancel it, plus the perimeter times the length of the prism, where the perimeter is just h plus b plus c. So I'm going to write the equation like this, but if you want to learn it this way, you could simplify your calculations if you want to replace p with h plus b plus c. So you can also use this formula if you find it easier. But I'm going to refer to this one most of the time. Now that we have all the formulas that we need, let's work on some examples. So let's draw a prism first. And let's say the length of the prism is 6 inches. The base of the prism is 3 inches and the height is 4 inches. Go ahead and calculate the volume and the surface area of the prism. So first we need to identify what we have. The length is 6 inches. The base is 3 inches and the height is 4 inches. So keep in mind, this is h. We're going to define this as b, and this is L. So now just write the formula. The volume is going to be 1/2 base times height times the length of the prism. So it's 1/2 times 3 times 4 times 6. 1/2 of 4 is 2. So we're left with 2 times 3 times 6. 2 times 3 is 6. So we have 6 times 6, which is 36. And don't forget to write the units. Inches times inches times inches is inches cubed or cubic inches. So the volume is 36 cubic inches. Now let's find the surface area of this object. So the first thing you want to do is you want to find the length of the hypotenuse, which we'll call C. If you recall, whenever you have a right triangle, you can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse. So C is equal to the square root of a squared plus b squared. Or you could say that c squared is a squared plus b squared. A, in our example, is 3. B is 4. Don't confuse this B with this B. I mean, you can make it the same, and you can make this A, but just understand that this B that I've highlighted there, you can use it to represent 4 or 3. It doesn't matter. Three squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 9 plus 16 is 25. And if you take the square root of both sides, this will give you 5. So that's the length of the hypotenuse. So now that we know that C is, let me put this in a different color, C is equal to 5, we can now find the surface area. But let's calculate the perimeter first. So remember, the perimeter is going to be the perimeter of the triangular base, highlighted in blue. So the perimeter is B plus H plus C. So the length of the base is 3. The height, that's 4. And C, the length of the hypotenuse of the triangle, that's 5. 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 5 is 12. So the perimeter is 12 inches. Now that we have the perimeter, we can calculate the surface area. The surface area is going to be the area of the base, which is, it simplifies to base times height when you incorporate both triangles, not just one. So remember, it's 1/2 base times height, but there's 2 triangles, so 2 times a half is a whole. So it's going to be base times height, that's the area of the 2 triangles, plus the lateral area, which is the perimeter times the length of the prism. So B is 3, the height is 4, and the perimeter That's going to be, we said it's 12, and the length is 6. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 6 is 72, and 12 plus 72 is 84. So the surface area is going to be 84 square inches. Anytime you're dealing with area, the units should be squared. They could be square feet, square inches, square yards. Whenever you're dealing with volume, it's going to be cubic feet, cubic inches, cubic yards. So just keep that in mind. Now let's work on some practice problems. All I want you to do in this example is simply to find the volume of this triangular prism. That's it. So let's say this side is 10 centimeters. This side is 5. And this portion is 4. That is the measure of the red line that's in the middle. So go ahead and just find the volume only of this prism. You don't have enough information to find the surface area. The first thing we need to do is identify the 3 dimensions that we have. This is the length of the prism, this is the base of the triangle, and this is the height of the triangle. So the volume is going to be 1/2 base times height times the length. So it's 1/2 the base of the triangle times the height of the triangle times the length of the prism. Now 5 times 4, that's 20. And 1/2 of 20 is 10. So we're left with 10 times 10, which is 100. So the volume is going to be 100 cubic centimeters in this example. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward to find the volume of a triangular prism. All you need to know is this formula. And if you identify those 3 dimensions, the length of the prism, the base of the triangle, and the height of the triangle, then finding the volume will not be difficult. Now in this example, I want you to find the surface area. Let's say this side is 15, and this side is 6, this side is 10, and we have this red box here. So using this information, go ahead and calculate the surface area. Now, in order to find the surface area, we need to find the perimeter of the triangular base. So we need all 3 sides. We only have 2 sides, so we got to find the missing side. But notice that it's a right triangle. So let's redraw the right triangle. We have the base of the triangle, but not the height. Or you can call this the height and call this the base. The order really doesn't matter. Your answer will be the same. But let's say 6 is the base, and this part is the height. 10, which is across the 90-degree angle, you have to see that 10 is basically the hypotenuse. This picture, in reality, is the same as this picture, which we've considered already. If you notice, it's just flipped on another side. So the base here is 6, that's B. We have the hypotenuse, 10, which is C. This is the hypotenuse highlighted in green. And we're looking for the height H. But the length is still 15. So as you can see, this portion highlighted in green on the right side is basically the same portion but just flipped on the ground. So imagine taking this triangle and just flipping it on one side. So basically the side that's highlighting green on the right is flipped on the bottom on the left. But it's the same type of triangle, just in case you're wondering. Now let's go ahead and find the surface area. So we got to find H first. c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. So we have c. C is 10. B is 6. And we're going to say a is the same as h. So let's replace a squared with h squared. And b squared is 6 squared. 10 squared is 100. 6 squared, that's 36. 100 minus 36 is 64. So 64 is equal to h squared. And if we take the square root of both sides, the square root of 64 is h. I mean, not h, but it's 8, which is h in this example. So the height is 8 units in length. So now we could find the perimeter, now that we have all three sides of the triangle. So the perimeter is going to be the length of the base plus the height of the triangle plus the length of the prism. So it's going to be 6 plus 8 plus L, which is 15. Actually, no, wait. I take that back. It's not the length of the prism, it's the hypotenuse of the triangle. We have to add this value to it. So B is 6, H is 8, and C, the hypotenuse of the triangle, is 10. 6 plus 8 is 14, plus 10, that's 24. So that's the perimeter. Now we can find the surface area. So it's going to be B times H plus the lateral area, which is the perimeter times the length. By the way, sometimes you might get some problems that just want you to find, or that just may ask for the lateral area, which is just P times L. So anytime you need to find the lateral area, just take the perimeter and multiply by the length of the base. So B is 6, H is 8, the perimeter is 24, and L is 15. 6 times 8 is 48, and 24 times 15 is 360. But this number 360, that is the lateral area. So for those of you who need to find it, that's how you could find it. It's 360 square units. But to find the surface area, you need to add the lateral area plus the area of the base, the two triangles. So 360 plus 48, that's 408 square units. So that's the surface area. Now, what do you think? Can we find the volume of this triangular prism? It turns out that we can. Feel free to pause the video and calculate the volume of the prism. So the volume is 1/2 base times height times L. The base of the triangle is 6, which we could see it here. The height of the triangle, we know it to be 8. And then the length of the prism is 15. 1/2 of 6 is 3. So we have 3 times 8 times 15. And 3 times 8 is 24. And 24 times 15, if I recall correctly, I believe that's 360 is what we said before. So it's 360 cubic units, whatever the units are, which I didn't write for this problem. So that's the volume of this prism. For the sake of practice, let's try one more problem. So let's see if you recall everything that you've learned today, and if you can apply it for this problem. So I want you to find the volume and the surface area of this triangular prism. So let me just go ahead and draw everything that you need. So let's say this is 9, 9, and 9. And this is 18. And this portion highlighted in blue, let's say that's 7.8. So with this information, you should be able to find everything. The volume of the triangular prism, and also the surface area. So go ahead and take a minute and figure that out. So let's start with the volume. We have the length. We also have all three sides of the triangle. And this is the height of the triangle. So if that's the height, then this portion must be the base. And the base is 9. So this is basically an equilateral triangle because all three sides are equal. So now let's calculate the volume. It's 1/2 b times h times l. So the base of the triangle is 9, the height of the triangle is 7.8, and the length of the triangle is 18. 1/2 of 18 is 9. So we have 9 times 9 times 7.8. 9 times 9 is 81. 81 times 7.8, let's use a calculator for that. So that's about 631.8 cubic units. So that's the volume of this prism. Now, let's calculate the surface area. So what is the first step to find the surface area? The first step is to calculate the perimeter. And we have all three sides. So we don't need to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the third side in this example. So the perimeter of that triangle is going to be 9 plus 9 plus 9. Just add up all three sides of the triangle. So if you add 9 3 times, it's basically the same as doing 9 times 3. Multiplication is just repeat addition. 9 times 3 is 27. So now you have the perimeter of the triangle. Next, let's calculate the lateral area first, because sometimes you may be asked just to do that. If we need to find the lateral area, it's simply the perimeter times the length. The perimeter is 27. The length of the prism is 18. So 27 times 18, that's 486 square units because we're dealing with area. So let's say if this was 9 inches, if everything was in inches, perimeter is just going to be in inches, 27 inches. Lateral area, any type of area or surface area, that's going to be square inches or square units. So that's the lateral area. Now, to find the surface area, it's the area of the base plus the lateral area. The area of the base, the two triangles, it's 2 times 1/2 base times height, which is just base times height. And the lateral area is perimeter times the length of the prism. So it's going to be B, which B is 9, H is 7.8, the perimeter is 27, and L is 18. 9 times 7.8, that's about 70.2. And we know that 27 times 18, we already have 486 for that. So we just got to add these two numbers. 486 plus 70.2, that will give us 556.2 square inches because we're dealing with surface area. So that's the surface area that I got for this problem. Hopefully I didn't miss any numbers. If you do, you can let me know. But that's how you find it. So for any prism, to find a surface area, it's just the area of the base plus the lateral area. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and have a good day. Now I want to show you one of my algebra courses that might be useful to you if you ever need it. So go to udemy.com. Now in the search box, just type in algebra and it should come up. So it's the one with the image with the black background. So if you select that option, and if you decide to go to course content, you can see what's in this particular course. So the first section, basic arithmetic, for those of you who want to focus on addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And it has a video quiz at the end. It's a multiple choice video quiz. You can pause it, work on the problems, and see the solutions. It covers long division, multiplying two large numbers, and things like that. The next tutorial is on fractions. Adding, subtracting fractions, multiplying, dividing fractions, converting fractions into decimals, and so forth. So you can also take a look at that. Next, solving linear equations, which we covered, and just more examples if you need more help with that. The next topic, order of operations, which is also useful. Graphing linear equations. You need to know how to calculate the slope. You need to be familiar with the slope-intercept form, standard form, and just how to tell if lines are parallel, perpendicular, and so forth. And there's a quiz that goes with that as well. The next topic is on inequalities and absolute value expressions, which are also seen in a typical algebra course. And then we have polynomials, and that's a long section. And then factoring, that's another topic you need to master. And then system of equations. You can solve it by elimination, substitution. There's also word problems as well. Sometimes you got to solve equations with three variables, x, y, and z. So that could be helpful. Next, quadratic equations, how to use the quadratic formula, how to graph them, how to convert between standard and vertex form. And then you have rational expressions and radical expressions, solving radical equations, simplifying it, things like that. And every section has a quiz, so you can always review what you've learned if you have a test the next day. So here we have complex imaginary numbers. You need to know how to simplify those. Exponential, functions, logs. I have a lot of videos on logs. And then this is just functions in general. Vertical line tests, horizontal line tests, how to tell if a function is even or odd. And then conic sections, graphing circles, hyperbolas, ellipses, parabolas, and things like that. There's 2 video quizzes because it's actually a long section. And finally, arithmetic and geometric sequences and series. So that's my algebra course if you want to take a look at it, and let me know what you think.